Subscribe to this podcast to get exclusive access to the after show Shooting the Breeze. Hello and welcome to the Cool Explorations podcast. Today we have on Michael Coleman, singer, songwriter, and member of the band See Your Shadow. He is going to talk about his testimony as well as what he has all done with his musical career and how God has worked through that and is now shining through in what he is doing. I hope you'll enjoy this. I'm your host, Tony Peters. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cool Explorations. I'm your host, Tony Peters. Today we have Michael Coleman. He's a singer-songwriter, and he sings in the band See Your Shadow. And so we're going to get into that a little bit. But first, why don't you start by telling us just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
As you mentioned, I'm Michael Coleman, and I'm actually the artistic director of an organization called See Your Shadow. I do perform on some of our music, but I'm primarily the one who writes and produces all the music that the organization puts together. And I have a network of people that work with me in order to bring my vision to life. And we're based out of Phoenix, and we're just, our main mission is to just create good art. And I'm at the top of the pyramid of that, putting it all together.
Yeah, it does take a team, that is for sure. And it's kind of cool to see your work come to play. I write music myself, not chords or anything, but just the lyrics. So it's definitely interesting to see your vision kind of coming to light, as you put it. And there goes my dog.
Yeah, going from bringing something to life from nothing is a really good feeling when you have a vision and you can actually see it come to fruition. I mean, it's like giving birth, actually. So every song is one of my kids, I say.
Yeah, and you put a lot into every single piece of music that you come out to. You put your soul down on paper, and it's wonderful to see. And speaking about that, what's your life story look like? Your testimony? How is faith kind of tied into your life at what points?
That's a very good question, and we really started. What I tell all people is that our lives are dictated from the time we're born, and my personal story is how I came into this world is my mom was raped several times when she was younger, and I'm the product of one of those sexual assaults, and I think from given those beginnings, my life could have gone a whole different direction, and especially being a person of color here in the United States. I mean, when you talk about a story like that, generally there's a prison number attached to it. Especially for a man of color. And I have been really, really blessed through making good choices. And I think I've been guided through my entire life throughout the choices that I have made. And that definitely comes from someplace, the path that I was on. And I think it was dictated based on those beginnings. And I always say that my talent comes from someplace because it's all natural. It's not talent that was cultivated and through education. It's just all natural. My ability to make the art that I make, and it all comes from someplace. And I think that definitely has the hand of a higher being that guides me to make the art that I make. And I think it was destined from the time that I was born, given my beginnings.
Yeah, well, good for your mom. Like that takes strength for her not to go down the abortion route that we see so often. That's a reason for abortion, and so I think that took a lot of strength for her to go through with that.
Yeah, and I talk about. I recently started opening up about this because I think it's important that guys talk about the burden that's placed on the women who are victims of sexual assault. And my mom, she passed a few years ago, and while she was dying, I was taking care of her, and we gotten really close, and she opened up to me about a lot of things I already knew about about one assault, but I didn't know of the many others. And it was a burden that she carried with her throughout her entire life. And for a woman to carry that kind of burden, it's very trying on them. And I don't think that we as men really truly understand that. And I think that it's important that we try to understand.
Yeah. I was molested twice as a child myself. So I do understand a little bit more about where they're coming from. And it is a burden. And it kind of guides what I do in helping me get that empathy for other people and try and, like you say, spread awareness. And I don't shy away from any topics on my podcast. That's just the way it is. And so I've talked about this several times on my podcast, and it's just that awareness, like you say, that needs to be out there so we can generate understanding and a little bit more compassion towards people. Because I think that's lacking in our society is a lot of compassion.
Yeah, and you know what's important as well is and how that impacts the children. You know, I mean, for the longest time, I couldn't understand why she was the way that she was in terms of how closed off she was, and she just had a way about her that didn't allow us to be as close as a mother and son should be. And now that I'm older and have gotten older, you know, I can see that I could have been a constant reminder of what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, and it was very enlightening us getting together, us getting so close the way that we did before she passed, and it was very healing I think for both of us.
Yeah, I bet it was. Yeah, talking about it definitely is something that you need to be open with, and it's hard to get to that point. It took a lot of years of counseling and pushing for my wife to really get to the point where I was okay talking about it, and now I am freely talking about it with many, many people. And that definitely took a lot of years to get to that point. So I understand where your mother would have been closed off, because I even to this day I struggle to make friends and keep friends, because it's letting people in, trusting people.
Yeah. And she did deal with that her entire life.
Yeah. So with the band See Your Shadow, how did the band come about, and where did the name come from? Because there's an interesting story behind the name.
Well, okay. So See Your Shadow comes from my birthday being Groundhog Day, and here in the United States, it's a tradition that if a groundhog sees its shadow which is February 2nd.
Yeah.
So if it's groundhog sees its shadow, then it's 6 more weeks of winter, or it's got to be early. It's one of those. It's either more winter or early. So I can never remember which one.
Yeah, I can never remember either. My daughter came home from school talking about it. I'm like, I remember that when I was a kid, but I don't remember.
So that's where the name came from. And when I started to go for a career in the arts, I didn't just want to be known as Joe Blow songwriter. And so what I did was I created the entity known as See Your Shadow, and that presents the work that I do as a songwriter. And so it's just a way to set me apart from other writers. You know, so especially doing the Nashville market. You know, you have everybody is a songwriter that down in Nashville, but when I come into the room, I'm representing the entity known as See Your Shadow. And we are an entity. It's not just me yet, although it is just me. But it's also my network of stars, though.
Yeah. And where does your passion for music come from? Like, when did that first start?
Oh, geez. You know, I have always had a passion for the arts from the time that I was a child. And on all mediums, because music is the main focus that I do. But I'm also a photographer, filmmaker, and regular writer. You know, screenplays and things like that. But music has always been the flagship. And I think it stems from, we always had different types of music growing up in the house. When I was growing up, there were all different kinds of music playing, and the See Your Shadow catalog has all different types of music in it. I've written songs in almost every genre, and that'll be showcased in the upcoming retrospective that we have coming out next week, where we go through all of the years of See Your Shadow and the different work that I've created over the years that people don't even know was even me.
Oh, that's cool.
And so yeah, it was just always there. I just love the arts and still do. Yeah, I mean, I'm very passionate. Show business and people and show business are my two favorite, are my two passions. And through See Your Shadow, I'm able to make an impact on both.
Yeah. And so do you tend to focus more on the songwriting part of it, or is it kind of a good split between the screenwriting and songwriting? And
well, it is, I mean, songs are always, music, like I said, it's always going to be the flagship. Right now, and I'll throw this out there, let your listeners know. Right now, I'm undercover in an industry that I'm doing research on because I want to write a book about it, and then maybe develop into a sitcom. But I'm the type of person that goes all out for the art that they create. I once went undercover in a maximum security prison, so I could get a feel for what it's like to be a prison guard for a story that I wanted to write. And right now I'm in another industry doing the same things, getting a feel for what it is firsthand, so I can delve into what it's like to live a certain type of life. And I just, like I said, I just go all out. That's how passionate I am about what I do.
yeah, that's really cool. And I love that you go all out in that, because that really says something about you and about what you do and your passion. It says something good about you. Also, there's a song that you wrote, the "I Will Tell Jesus You Said Hello." I love that song. Where did the inspiration for that song come from?
Oh, that's a good question, and appropriate for the podcast, for the show, because literally that song came to me out of nowhere. It just hit me. The inspiration just hit me, and then I just ran with it. But literally that song came out of nowhere, and because of the subject matter of the song, people think that it's my personal story. But I don't have any, because the song, for your listeners, the song is about a couple that lose a child, and they take comfort and healing in the child's last words when he says goodbye to them, and his goodbye, he says, "Oh, by the way, I will tell Jesus you said hello," saying that he's gonna, when he gets to heaven, he'll mention to Jesus that you said hello, and I don't have any children. And so I've never been through something like that personally, but a lot of people think that that it's something that I went through personally, but it's not. The inspiration just came to me literally from nowhere, and that is truly divine inspiration, actually, for me to be able to write that story and tell that story when I haven't lived it personally.
Yeah, and I love songs that tell a story. There's just something in me. I guess it's the author in me that just gets out in there. And so when I hear songs that tell a story, like I'm the type that listens to every word of a song, and kind of can drive people nuts sometimes, because I'm like, you know what that song is actually talking about?
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that particular piece is that, I mean, it's our award-winning piece. We were named Best Alternative Group by the International Music Association on the heels of that piece, and it was our first number one, iTunes number one. And the interesting thing about that piece, and this is be good for your listeners to take away from this, Nashville hated that piece. They absolutely could not stand that piece. And I was told, number one, it's too sad. I was told that it's a duet. Nobody wants to hear a duet. And for your listeners, the song is told but from the two parents' point of view. You have the dad's point of view, and you have the mom's point of view. Which is why it is a duet. And literally every person, colleague of mine in the industry down in Nashville, hated that piece. And I said to myself, you know what? This piece is bigger than me. It's bigger than them, and we're going to go ahead and release it. And it turned out to be our first #1, and I think we were on the Christian radio charts with that piece, and it was well received by the public, and ended up being an award-winning song. So there you go. So yeah, I say all that to say that do not let anybody tell you that your work is no good when you know in your heart that it is.
Yeah, and how many duets do you see nowadays? Like,
yes,
Reba McEntire did a whole album just on duet singing, and
yes.
Ed Sheeran, he sings a lot with other people too. So yeah, it's definitely something I like, because it kind of gives the two perspective
yes
part of it, and I like that. It's just interesting, and you get the mesh of the voices, and it kind of hits you more because they work together and they play off each other with the sound of the voices.
Yes, especially the build up at the end. I mean, and I'll give props to our See Your Shadow network of stars who did that for me. A man by the name of Drew Middleton and a woman by the name of Caitlin Dyer, and they really just embraced that piece, and which is why they are part of the See Your Shadow network of stars. Because they just really they felt that piece. And when you have people that feel the material that they are performing, it comes out in the performance. And as a producer, you really want that because it transcends the radio. So if they're able to feel it, the listening audience is able to feel it as well. And so many people have gone through that, and that is their personal stories, not my personal story, but so many others have gone through that, and have contacted me to say that how much they love that piece because it did touch on subject matter that we normally don't talk about. And that's one of the things that See Your Shadow does. I'm known for writing material with the subject matter that is not normally heard of in modern song. And I'm not afraid to shy away from things just because they could be deemed too uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think that's important because even one of the first people I had on for interview was a porn expert, someone who was a counselor for porn addiction, and speaking about how huge it is even amongst the Christian community. And I'm like, yeah, that's something that we don't talk about. And I got some flack for that, but I mean, it's like, it's stuff we need to talk about, things that, we need to be out in the open. And I like that you do that with your music. And it is harder for music because you don't have the face to see like they do in acting. There you can connect emotion with their reactions, whereas singers, it has to be, like you say, that heartfelt. You have to feel it with what they're singing.
And I think where this is where the independent artist is really important, because the corporate machine that is Nashville, that is Los Angeles, that is New York, they have a certain mode of what they think the listening audience wants to hear, and you'll see that songs are often very similar and very they have the same repetitive kind of construction to them, and so therefore when audiences get something that is never been done before, or talks about something that they haven't heard in a modern piece, or that is not that cookie cutter formula that the record, quote unquote, record industry says that you're going to listen to and like, it's refreshing for the listening audience, and they tend to embrace those pieces wholeheartedly because they've been hungry for them and they've been waiting for the emotion that has been missing in modern music.
Yeah, and I find that with so many musicians out there that, you listen to one CD and you're like, I love that CD, and then the next CD sounds the exact same. So you're just like, yeah, I'm not downloading any songs from that CD because it sounds exactly like the last CD. And so usually it's why I like iTunes. I'll pick one or two songs off a CD that I really like, and that's what I download, because otherwise the rest of it, like you say, cookie cutter, it just sounds the same. And
Yeah.
it is refreshing to hear something different.
Yeah, yeah. A good example of that is years ago there was a song called "If I Die Young" by a band called the Band Perry, and I'm a member of the CMA's
I like that
Country
song.
Association, and that song swept every award that year because it was so refreshing. It was everything that had been missing from music up until that time that it came out. And that's why it was so well embraced, and it swept every award that season, because folks were hungry for something that was different and not the cookie cutter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but however, but fans have got to demand that, until the fans demand that that level of sophistication, because record labels think that our listening audiences are dumb, and so you're going to like what I tell you you're going to like, and because we're going to pump it into your face so much that'll become part of your psyche. But until fans of music demand something different, it will always be that, and that's where the independent artist is very important, because there you can get the things that you have been lacking that you're not going to get from a major.
Yeah, and the band Perry is a good example, because they do sing about different topics that a lot of people don't. Like they have a song about abuse too, and how they're not going to be like their mother, who just hit it and shut their mouth. That they're going to be out and they're going to say something and separate. And it's like, well, yeah, it's how many artists are going to come out there and sing about that? Well, they did. And my wife and I, we really like their music just because it is different, so
Yeah.
much of it. So that's a good example. You were also nominated for the office, I want to get this right, Office of Poet Laureate for the state of Ohio. So tell us a little bit how that all came about and what that felt like to be nominated for that.
Well. See Your Shadow started in Columbus, Ohio, and that's where I kicked it off, and the Ohio Arts Council had heard about me. All right, and I've been nominated actually for the position twice, and so they heard about me, and they made a recommendation, because it's a governor. You're appointed by the governor to be the poet laureate for the state of Ohio, and they had heard about me and made the recommendation to the governor, that I be appointed, because our See Your Shadow's lyrics are known for standing on their own as literature, and I was not only professional songwriter to be nominated for that position, because when you look at See Your Shadow's lyrics on the written page, they double as literature, and that is my signature my signature writing style. And so they made the recommendation twice, for Governor Kasich at the time, to appoint me as the support laureate for the state of Ohio. I didn't get the appointment, but to be nominated not only once but twice was quite the feat.
Yeah, it's a good honor, I think, for that to go through. And I myself, I'm in the process of turning a lot of my poems into songs now, because a lot of my poems do tell that story. And so I'm going and I'm converting them into songs. And it's kind of interesting to then see the other side of that, where you're like, oh, well, I wrote this kind of just get the emotion down on paper. And I was trying to kind of flow with a certain rhythm. Well, now I'm trying to put it to a musical rhythm. And it's kind of it's a different process. So it's kind of interesting to see both sides. So I like that you have that screenwriting side, and you have that storytelling, songwriting side as well, because it's interesting to see how they kind of cross and probably they play off each other.
Yeah. This is what I tell people, that that there are so many stories around us all the time, and all we have to do is look and listen. Everything is a story. I'm the type of person that when I'm in a crowded room or if I'm hanging out with my friends, and I'm listening to the conversations that are going on around me, or I'm watching interactions in the distance, because everything is a story, and you just never know where the inspiration for something is going to come from, but you have to be open to receive it. And the only way you do that is by looking and listening.
Yeah, and I like to say a quote that originally comes from the song August Rush, or the movie August Rush, but I've kind of tweaked it a little bit. In there, he's like, the music is all around you, you just have to listen. And I always say, God is all around you, you just have to listen. And it's the same kind of theme where like you say, you have to listen. You just have to spend that quiet time.
Yeah, and indeed, and what it's interesting that you say that, you say that God is all around you, because and that is so true, because and we don't, sometimes we don't even really realize that. And what I tell people is you got to think of it in this terms. Think of it when you're down to, you don't know, you're broke, and you have no money coming from anywhere. You don't have any money, and you put on a jacket that you haven't put on in 6 months, and there's a $20 bill in the pocket. Where do you think that comes from? It's those little things like that. Those types of blessings. That sometimes we take for granted. We don't even really realize that that's something divine that's being put in your path.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen that so much because my wife and I, we've been really struggling due to my health reasons. And we've just had money has come in at just the right time. An example, just this past week, we were determined we were going to take the kids on at least a vacation this summer.
Uh-huh.
Even though we don't have any money, we were going to take them on a vacation. So we traveled just a couple hours away with family of ours and spent a night there, went to the water park that was there and to the mall and that kind of stuff. And we're like, okay, well, that's going to make money really, really tight. Well, then the government suddenly gave a rebate on some taxes that they had done, and it was just enough to cover our trip. And we're like, how perfect is that? That it's just enough to cover our vacation trip at just the right time. And we have several stories just like that. It's just the right time.
Yeah. And people don't realize. I mean, they take those small. Sometimes they take those small things for granted, and but it's because they're looking for the major, blessing. But it really is those small blessings that come right on time. I always tell folks that it's not in your time, it's in His time.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in your time, His time.
Exactly. And that is really hard to keep in mind. It's a challenge. It definitely takes some focus to be like, yeah, okay, just patience, and seeing what God is trying to teach you through a situation, seeing that thing like, oh, okay, I grew in this area because of this struggle. I get it. I see now.
Yes. You know what? And I've known so many, folks that have been destined for other things, but they hold on to. I'll give you a good example. I knew this one. He was a really great musician, but he had this day job that he hated. Okay, but he would always go and do these gigs. He wanted to move down to Nashville and pursue that full time. But he was always, oh no, I can't do this because I got to hold on to this day job that he thought was great, but he hated. And so when you're supposed to be doing something else, sometimes things are put in motion to get you to where you're supposed to be going. So he ended up losing that job, and finally went down to Nashville because he didn't have the job anymore that was holding him back, and he actually became very successful. But But sometimes we'll have things put in motion for us when we're supposed to be doing something else, and we're not adhering to the plan that is already been predestined for us. Sometimes you'll get that little kick, where you think that it is, a hardship, but in actuality, it's to get you to where you're supposed to be ending out.
That is so true, and definitely happens, I think, in everybody's life. And looking for those times is important to recognize those things, because sometimes you need your anchor cut, so that you can fly away and you can actually be what you're supposed to be. I had one writer on who compares our life to the cycle of a butterfly, and I think it's so perfect. I did a devotion series on her book just because it's so perfect in terms of our growth, where we have that struggles where we're stuck in a cocoon, and then we break out of that cocoon and we flourish. All of a sudden we're just like, this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
And so I definitely I can understand what you're saying there, and it's very true in so many people's lives. You also had a lot of success with some of your music that you've written. Can you give a few examples of some of those songs that have really been a good success? I know we discussed one of them, but I know there's more.
You know what, I'm going to tell you, we have been really blessed. We've had 5 iTunes chart toppers back to back. We talked about "I Will Tell Jesus," and that was the first one. But the 4 that came after that were also went to number 1 on iTunes down in South Africa, and we've had stuff in films. I created the first country and western hip hop record, and that's also on the retrospective that's coming up, and then that was in a movie, and we've had stuff on television. We were part of a PBS series. One of our pieces was part of a PBS series, and I was asked to do the theme song for the Columbus, Ohio bicentennial when that came through, and as well as I wrote the theme song for the NAGAA Softball World Series, which is the largest amateur sporting event in the United States, held every year, and that's on the retrospective as well. So we've done a lot of projects, like I was saying earlier, that people don't even realize that I was behind, but which is why we're doing the retrospective. So we can say, this is the road that we've come, and so you don't even realize that one person was behind all of this, and so we're really excited about this. And I was thinking about this before I was getting ready to come on the show. Now, the name of the retrospective is called "For His Mind." No, excuse me, "From His Mind," and that could go either way as far as stuff that I've created, from my mind, or stuff that the Lord has given me to create, that has put in my mind, and so I was just thinking about that. I didn't really correlate it that. On that level until I was getting prepared for my appearance on your show, and I love how it doubles, how it has that double meaning.
Yeah.
Because I really struggled with what to call the retrospective, and then that idea came to me to call it that, and I think it's very fitting because it has that double meaning.
Yeah, the double entendre. I love that. Like, yeah. As a writer, I like to play around with that kind of stuff. So that kind of that's in my wheelhouse. Throughout your journey, where have you kind of seen those God moments where it's just kind of, I can look back now and I can see God's there?
Well, and there have been so many, and I will give you probably the most concrete example. So our current record, the record that is doing really well, it's on like every radio chart, been performing so well. I just can't even. I'm just so amazed at how well it's performing. So it's called "Missing West Virginia." Okay, and so how that song came about was I was having a phone conversation with the publisher that I was dealing with down in Nashville at the time. And during that time, every time I talked to this man, he always was trying to get me to write for somebody that he met. Okay. So he was like, "Oh, I just met this person. You need to write for them." It was every phone conversation. So we had this one conversation during our weekly chats, and he was telling me that he had just had lunch with this young singer. And so I was like, I was kind of blowing him off because he talked to me about it all the time, that he met some person. And so we finished our business and I hung up the phone. And then after our conversation was over, the line "Missing West Virginia" came to me, and I couldn't get it out of my mind, the line and the melody. And so the next time we talked, I told him, I said, "Daniel, the strangest thing, ever since we talked last week, I have this line that's in my head, and I think I want to do something with it. The line is 'Missing West Virginia.'" And he said, "Michael," he said, "that singer I was telling you about that I had lunch with, that you were blowing me off about, he said, is from West Virginia. And he, at that lunch, he told me how much he misses West Virginia." And there you go. And then the rest is history after that. And that I love telling that story because number one, you can't make something like that up. And it's just a concrete example of how the hand is in everything that you do. His hand is in everything. And that I did this. And at the time, I had never been to West Virginia. Had no idea about the state at all, but we wrote that piece about a young man that misses his home, and it's from West Virginia.
Yeah, that's a cool story, because like you say, you can't make stuff up like that. It just comes about and it happens, and sometimes you do. You just get this nagging line or beat, even like. I'll have like this tune in my head. I'm just like, okay, I got to do something with this. And usually it's right when I want to go to bed. That's usually when I start getting with the lines, and I'm like, I got to write this down. I'm never going to remember it.
Mine always happens in the shower. I have gotten so much inspiration in the shower for whatever reason. It's must be something about the water, but it's always when I'm in the shower and I got to get out of the shower and write something down or whatnot. So.
Yeah, that's where cell phones are nice now. You can just start typing on your phone, and your wife's like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, something popped in my head. I got to get it done. It's got to go in somewhere. I used to have a pen and paper. Now it's my cell phone. So where can people find your music and yourself online?
Of course, our flagship website is seeyorshadow.com, and that's SEEYOURSHADOW.com. And we have links to our videos and the music there. That is our flagship website. Our preferred social media platform is Facebook, and the music is on every streaming platform that there is. So Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, Pandora, iHeart. Yeah. So we're on all the streaming platforms. I also encourage folks, and this is what I love to do. I also encourage your listeners to reach out to me personally on my Facebook page. You'll see Michael Coleman. You'll see me with the cowboy hat. The Metropolitan Cowboy is what I'm known as, and that's how you know you have the right one when you see me with the cowboy hat. And because I always like having that personal connection with folks. All I got to do is say, "Hey, I saw you. I heard you on the podcast, and just wanted to connect." And I love doing that with people because you never bringing people into your life is really important. Even if it's just on social media and having that connection with folks. You could be introduced to somebody that you would never would enter your sphere. Unless it was on social media. And then when I travel, I like to say, "Hey, I'm going to be here. Hey, let's hang out and do something."
Yeah, and that's really cool, that personal touch. What advice would you give to people who are just a young, aspiring writer out there?
I would say this: never apologize for the art that you create. And the reason why I say that is that uh, I've written a lot of different tunes and different things, and some of them have been quite controversial. Uh, but I never apologize for how it is I am inspired for the work that I create. And my job is to create the work. Your job is to create the work and let the chips fall where they may. And so that would be a huge thing. Just create, and let the chips fall where they may, and never apologize for how you're inspired.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because it's like we were talking about before. The machine can kind of put you in as a cog in the wheel, and just that's the sphere you stay in is what the machine wants you to be, rather than actually being the machine and being outside of that machine, thinking outside the box.
Yes.
And that's, for writers, that's where I think the true talent lies. It's people who can think outside the box, like yourself.
Yeah, I had a colleague, and I can't take credit for this, but she once told me when I was down in Nashville, she said, and I'll give this to your listeners, always continue to think outside the box, because when it pays off huge.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. Great conversation. I always like getting all these different perspectives. So it was refreshing to hear your take on some of this music stuff.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on. I really had a good time, and I really, really appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's very important. Inspiration, giving folks inspiration, and something where they can companion with their faith, no matter what it is what I think is important, and because we all need faith.
Yes, we do. Yeah, especially in these times where we're seeing so much hate and distrust and bitterness going around, where I was talking about yesterday too, that there's no discussion. It's my way or you're wrong and I hate you. That needs to change in our society, because we need to get back to having discussions and being open to being like, oh, I see your point. Here's my point. And taking both sides of it and being able to meet in the middle, or walk away disagreeing, but still being at a place where it's like, I don't hate you. And I always tell people, I love you no matter what. I love you.
Yeah, people don't realize that, you can have a different opinion or a different political view from other people, but you can still be friends. Exactly. I mean, who wants to be in a world where everybody is just like you? And that actually was a lesson that I had to learn. Learn the hard way, and good thing I learned it early on in life. You just don't want to be around people that are just like you. That is truly what makes our world better is the differences, and there's more that we have alike than we have different. And when you really delve, you find it.
Yeah. So thank you again. I really, really appreciate you being on.
All righty. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Cool Explorations. You just heard from Michael Coleman, singer, songwriter, and member of the band See Your Shadow. And he's just talked about his musical journey and how God has been able to use his musical talents and is now shining through that exact skill. Well, I have just been blessed with so many people who are requesting to be on the show, and I'm impressed with how many people want to share their testimonies or what they're doing for the Lord right now. If I haven't got back to you, I promise I will get back to you. I look forward to speaking with each of you and interviewing you, and keep tuning into the show. There's lots of new people that are coming on here, and if you're considering wanting to come on the show, just shoot me an email at tpeters745@gmail.com, and I will get back to you.